Hello everybody, hope you're doing marvellously well. We're back with another FAQ Friday. I hope you're all doing marvellously well. Please, as ever, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. It's also nice when the like button is hit because it lets us know you like the video. And of course, if you haven't yet, please go to producelikeapro.com, sign up for the email list, get a whole bunch of free goodies. And of course, you can try out the 14-day free trial of the Academy, which is freaking awesome. It's growing super rapidly and everybody in there is amazing and helps each other out. Okay, we've got a bunch of questions this week. And this one is one that has been coming across my desk. That sounds very official. I don't have a desk. I sit at a couch or at a chair, but it sounds like coming across my desk. Now, this is a question that comes up a lot. What is the difference between stems and tracks? Okay, so this is a huge one. I'll tell you why it's a huge one, because a lot of people up and coming use the word stems, and they use it as sort of a euphemism for tracks. However, stems technically are when you bounce tracks together. So if somebody says to me, I really want to get some stems from you for a live show, what they're saying is they maybe want to take all of the keyboard parts, which could be panned all over the place, and could have pad and some strings and a synth part bouncing backwards and forwards, and they want it to be stemmed out, i.e. created as a pair of stereo tracks, which they then could trigger or have play along with a click at the show. The same can be done with stereo guitars. That is a stem of the guitars. This is what for years and years and years has been referred to as stems. Now, I have noticed, I see it in questions. People ask about stems when they mean individual tracks. So be really, really careful, because somebody once asked me to get the stems, and I literally stemmed the whole album. I took the album and we did stereo drums, we did stereo guitars, keys, backgrounds, you name it. We made all of these tracks so they could open them up in a live situation and have maybe 8 stereo files, 8 stereo stems. So we sent it. We get a phone call a week later, and it says, we opened up the tracks on the computer. This is exactly what they said, the tracks on the computer, and they're not individual stems. The phrase in itself was a contradiction. We opened up the tracks, but they're not individual stems. How about we opened up the tracks and there wasn't any tracks, there was only stems? So I know what tends to happen is we take a word like that, and it becomes a euphemism, and it means maybe tracks, individual tracks to some people. However, a lot of people that have been recording for a while will not understand when you say, please send me the stems. They may well send you like 8 stereo files, all bounced together. So it's worth understanding the difference, even if you're communicating with somebody that understands you mean tracks when you say stems. Another dance music guy maybe, another dance music girl that you're working with, and they say, send me the stems. They probably do mean just the stereo keyboard, this stereo this, but they don't mean bounce together. Make sure you understand the difference, because if you don't understand the difference and somebody is really specific about stems, they want combined tracks, then you might send them individual tracks. And then the opposite, when they want individual tracks, you might send them combined tracks. So traditionally, tracks are tracks. They're independent, individual elements. Stems are bounced together, incorporated stereo files of various different instrument groups. Hopefully that all makes sense. All right, so we've got a couple of questions here about working, collaborating with other people. It's something that's really, really big in the Produce Like a Pro community. So many of you get together inside of the community and then start collaborating. And it's not just the obvious things like one of you is a producer, one of you is a songwriter, and one of you is a mixer, or somebody else is a mastering engineer. The great thing is so many of you are multi-instrumentalists, the guitar player or a drummer, a singer, obviously, a songwriter, a percussionist, a keyboard player. We have a couple of people that are really amazing with string arrangements. So the point is that collaborations can really be quite intricate. Inside of the Academy, we've had a different drummer with a different bass player, a different guitar player, like taking our pre-existing tracks and adding elements to it. It's absolutely fantastic. So with that in mind, this is a great question. Number 2, I've been hiring pros to record my album with me. We are in different countries, recording in home studios or on the road. Deals are basically worked out in Facebook Messenger and email. Do I need to be providing or requesting contracts? What a marvelous question. Yes and no. I had a lawyer once tell me this, which may or may not be 100% accurate, but it's a good point. They said, if it's in an email, it's as good as a contract. Now, that isn't entirely true. However, if you don't have a contract with somebody and you've stated some terms of business in an email, and it did, God forbid, get to a court case, maybe the only proof you have is that email that you print out. So, got to be careful. I would say, try to get everything you can in writing. Keep it positive, keep it, open, but get as much as you can in writing. The reality of doing contracts is they cost money if they're done with a reputable, high-quality lawyer is not cheap, and nor should they be, because they should be protecting all the parties. Each party should have its own lawyer and feel protected and get what they need out of a situation. However, there's nothing cheap, nothing inexpensive about that whatsoever. Even a quote-unquote cheap lawyer still might be most of the budget on the recording of the song. Even today, I do one-off songs with people, and if I was to use a lawyer on like a day's recording, it could completely eat up any potential of having any profit from it whatsoever. So I have contracts that I can adjust. I'm fortunate enough to have an amazing producer manager, and that producer managers also do contracts. However, I would never want to put a good lawyer out of business. If you do have access to a lawyer, not just in this situation, but pretty much in any situation, use them. If you've got access and you can afford it, or you have a great relationship with a friend who's a lawyer who'll check something out, it's a wonderful thing, and you do want to protect yourself. However, what you're specifically talking about here is musical collaborations. And you've got to be able to find a happy medium. You've got to make people feel rewarded. You've got to make people feel inclusive. You've got to make them feel like they are important. You don't want to talk down to them. You don't want to dictate terms to them. You need them to bring their A game. If you've got somebody that's super creative and an amazing guitar player, for instance, if you send them some big long-form contract of how that you own everything percent and it's all work for hire and they can't claim, it's a little kind of heavy. I've sent contracts to people before to quote-unquote protect myself, and they've felt a little bewildered by a 4 or 5 page contract for something quite simple. So you need to find a happy medium. How do you do that? You get to know the people you're working with, whether it be face-to-face or on the phone or literally through email, or as you're suggesting here, Facebook Messenger. Get a rapport. Find a place where you feel comfortable offering them a certain amount of money for their abilities, or if there's no money changing hands, find maybe a happy medium on the publishing, on some kind of co-writing. Make sure that you reward the musicians, the people that you're working with. Make sure that it feels good for everybody involved, because everything will come back round to bite you. If you're going to be negative with people and you're going to be aggressive with people, then even accidentally, make sure that you're humble enough to apologize and get through it, because if you don't, you could lose relationships. And I can tell you, every day we have conversations with different artists about how they worked with a different producer who was completely errant, who was never there, who was on the phone the whole time, who left them with the assistant to make the record. And you can do that once or twice, and you have to sometimes go and take those phone calls. But if you're repeating those kind of things and you're making an artist or a collaborator feel less than, you will end up not working. So once again, relationships, relationships, relationships. Build those strong relationships. Collaborate with people. Sometimes you have to give up a lot. Sometimes you don't have to give up a lot, but you just have to weigh every single situation. Is this song amazing? Is this guitar player a phenomenal musician that's going to bring his name or her name to it? If so, maybe you are giving a little bit extra away. Maybe you do have to agree that in advance. But sometimes having a song that I'm singing on, I could write a great song and sing on it. Who cares? There's not a line of people at this moment, or sitting with their laptops with Spotify open, waiting for the new Warren Hewitt single to drop. It's just not happening. There's nobody waiting for me to sing. However, if I wrote a great song and an amazing singer just loved it, changed a couple of words and wanted a piece of the publishing, I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to give it to them because bringing a song to life with an amazing artist means so much more than just me. Here's a great story. I once worked with a really great artist, and she had this song, and it was a demo, and she sang on it, and I thought it was pretty good. And she said to me, she goes, the label thinks it's my first single. And I was like, huh? And it was a demo. She wasn't like delivering maybe the way she could have. But I was like scratching my head like, it's a pretty good song. I was like, well, who wrote it? And she said, Cara Diaguardi. And you probably know that. She's an amazing singer and an amazing songwriter. And she goes, let me play you Cara singing it. She puts it on. Wow. Cara nailed it. It was expressive and brought the melody to life. And I was like, at the end of the song, I was like, wow, this could be a hit song. I'm like, wait there. 5 minutes ago, I didn't think it was a hit song when it was kind of a averagely recorded demo. So you get my point. When you've got somebody that can bring your work to life, whether it be a singer, a musician, a producer, an engineer, a mixer, whatever it might be, when you get a chance, you've got to make sure that you reward them and you find a safe place that you both feel good about the collaboration. You don't want to be that guy or girl who's continually like this. I remember working with somebody, I'm not going to say their name, but working with somebody maybe in the very early 2000s, it could be about 2000. We wrote a lot of songs together, a lot. And I was working for free and I was co-writing, I was playing all the instruments and yeah. And then when it came to negotiate the writing split, suddenly my writing percentage got pretty small. And they were like, well, you didn't really write. I was like, I wrote the chorus. And they're like, yeah, but the bridge and the verses is more of the song. I'm like, maybe percentage-wise, but I wrote the chorus. Yeah, but, and then suddenly I become like a 30% writer on a song that I wrote the chorus. I remember thinking to myself, I don't really want to write with this person anymore. I don't really want to put my heart and soul into something because I don't feel like they're treating me well. I don't feel like I'm being rewarded. Now, flip it around. You've got somebody, they bring something special to the song, they take it to the next level, reward them. Reward them, because if they have that ability to take your music and take it to the next level, you sure as heck want to be working with them. And you want to be working with them regularly. So I've been on both sides. I'm sure I have undercut people and I have been undercut. And I think being the person, the guy or girl who's going out there treating people with respect is a much better place to be than the one that's always complaining how hard done by they are and everything. Give yourself a positive makeover and realize that collaboration is the king of creativity. So you can be as creative as you like, but you need that collaboration of being able to work with others. So agree the terms, but do it in a very friendly, very respectful way that makes everybody feel good. I hope you're enjoying the video. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, but more importantly, or just as importantly, go to Produce Like a Pro and sign up for the email list and try out the Academy. It's absolutely freaking awesome. How do you adapt your playing to suit the genre of song you're working on, since you work in a myriad of styles? I just love all music, and especially, camera. I'm sure you've watched a ton of my videos. I mean, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, there's like 30 or 40 guitars. There's about 30 guitars sitting out here, and we have about 40 in total in the studio. And so, yes, I like to play guitar. I'm a guitar player, and I love all styles of guitar playing. So if you come in and you're doing a heavy rock song, I'd love to shred on it. If you come in and you're a funk band, yep, let me play some funk. I even play some country, I play some folk, and probably most importantly, outside of rock, I love blues playing. So you understand my point. I push myself in all kinds of directions. I love all kinds of styles. What is interesting, and many of you probably don't know, is in the late 80s and early 90s, before I got into like an indie rock band in 94, 95, I actually used to DJ and do what is now known as EDM. When we did it, it was just dance music. And so I did that as well. And we used to have ADATs and sequencers and a ton of synths. When I was at Junkie XL's just a couple of weeks ago, if you remember that video, I'm looking at these synths going, I used to have that. I used to have that. I used to use this. I used that sequencer. I had that sampler. I had a lot of that stuff. I remember I had an Akai S650. Couldn't afford the S1000. I had the X650. And a ton of other stuff. And it was amazing. And it was a lot of fun. And it was all sequenced, and we'd play guitar to ADAT synced up to it. I remember taking an Alesis gate and running the hi-hat track, opening and closing the gate, so it sidechained it, and playing guitar. So you have that. It was freaking awesome. It was so much fun. So I can turn on a dime and do different styles because I love all kinds of music. I love all kinds of guitar players, you name it, but just all kinds of music. Yes, I love Queen. Look, I mentioned it in the video. But I also love, absolutely love Portishead, unbelievable record. Massive Attack, amazing. This is the stuff that still sounds a little bit like the future to me. You listen to the early Massive Attack, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I remember, having the Orbs first record and then everything that came afterwards. I mean, it's very, very dense now in EDM and in dance music. There is a huge amount of music now. But there was a time that all of these things lived together. You would go to a massive festival and you could see a really cool indie band, a really cool rock band, and a really amazing dance artist all playing on the same main stage. It wasn't a case of only metal, only dance music. It all blended together. It was just one thing, and that was music. And it was phenomenal. So I suppose my long meandering answer is, for me, that's a challenge that I love. I love the challenge of working in multiple different styles. I say, bring it on, and I encourage you to bring it on and for you to blend styles together, because it is so rewarding and is what makes music truly different and exciting. I asked a very, very famous producer his interview is going to come out next week, what their model was for one of the biggest rock albums of all time. And that famous producer said to me, electronic music. So think about that next time you're listening to an amazing heavy rock or rock album. When you hire someone to play, is it all done by ear, or do you write out the parts? Or is it something as simple as a lead sheet? I'm looking around for charts handily. I personally am remarkably lazy. I think I'm always doing 50 things, as you can probably tell. I'm sitting here like at a computer, answering emails, but I always have a guitar in my hand and I'll work out the song. So if I have to pick up a guitar and play some parts, I already know the chord sequences, I know the melody, I may have worked out harmony parts. That to me is a big deal. I think Eric is about to hand me a chart. Okay, so this is an artist we work with called Sage, and it's super simple chart. I mean, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's super simple. It just goes D, D, G, A, D, D, G, A, B minor, G, D. And it just says intro, verse, chorus. And, you know, I might just write that. There, of course, is the Roman numeral system where you'll do 6, 4, 1, 5. We all know that chord progression. And then if the key changes, 1 minute you're in A major, so it'd be F sharp minor, D, A, E major. And let's just say, yeah, you guessed it, it changes to B major. Suddenly it's G sharp minor, E, B, F sharp. The point is like you can write it in a Roman numeral system. I will say if it's a complex song with a complex arrangement, I try to spend a couple of minutes charting it. But typically, because I'm working on a song a lot longer than just the guitar player would be, which means that, you know, I'm there from the tracking of the drums, you know, bass, guitars, keyboards, vocals. I'm along for the whole haul. Engineering, producing, mixing, I'm involved in every part of it. Sometimes I'm involved in the writing. So for me, I usually don't have a chart because I'll just pick up a guitar and go and play it because I've heard the song a gazillion, billion, trillion times. So if I don't have it in my brain by the time I have to play a guitar part, then I probably should be doing a different job. So it's usually fairly easy for me. But if I go and work with a world-class musician or bring a world-class musician in, obviously a great example of that would be Tim Pierce. Tim and I work sitting opposite each other. He presses play on Pro Tools and he has a pad and paper and in real time, he charts the song. And at 3 minutes in, 3 minutes 20, it's coming to the end of the song. He's like, okay, got it. And he charts it in real time. And what that allows him to do is not have to think. He can just play. So he's got the chart just sitting in front of him and it becomes second nature. I do think whatever you do, you need to connect to the song. So it might mean that even if you write your chart in 3 minutes, maybe you need to listen to it a few times. Maybe you need to mess around. There's no laws, but the reality is some people read and write music beautifully. I read and write music not beautifully. I don't read all the time. It's been years since I've needed to read on a regular basis, so I can pick up sheet music and go da 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 da. Okay, da 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 da. You know, that's what I'm like. I'm not sight reading like that. The band's already in the second verse, and I'm finishing the first verse. You know, so that's not me. Having it written, if that's the way you're going to hand it to me for a session, I'll literally practice it a couple of times, and then when the song starts tracking, I know the part, but I'm not going to sight read it straight away. So that's just because I don't do it all the time, and frankly, it rarely comes up. Now, if you are that person, if you are that girl, that guy that can sight read and does it, I mean, God bless you. And there are many world-class musicians of just like rock and roll guitar that also are sight readers. There is no real snobbery with that because guys or girls that go to schools like Leeds in England or Berkeley in America of that kind of level of player, you know, they're taught to sight read. So they might be just they might be playing like a funky bass line, but they can read it straight away. And they can read some of those articulations because it's not just about note choices. As I'm sure you're aware, it's about timing. So it's like if it's like some paradiddle right hand thing, you know, having that ability to be able to read it easily is really, really huge. The short version of my long answer is whatever works for the musicians you're working with or what works for you. If it's just a chord chart that's literally written A minor, C, G, B over G, you know, with the B in the bass. If that's what you're writing to see it, then God bless you if it works. I do that when I write charts. That's mainly what my charts look like. If it is completely intricate, written out every single like note in an arpeggio, then God bless you too. That also works. There's all of these different kinds of things that you can do. And there is no right way or wrong way. Whatever works for you, and more importantly, whatever works, or as importantly, whatever works with the musicians you're working with. I love these questions. These hit on a lot of things that are really important to me. Please feel free to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the like button. And of course, most importantly, leave a bunch of comments and questions below. It really means a lot to me when you interact with us. It really does. And this community is fantastic, and I love all of your support. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing, and I'll see you all again next week.